have Eddy Lyons, and he has over 15 years of experience in property and casualty insurance and with the National Flood Insurance Program with FEMA. He has reviewed and adjusted over 4,000 claims, wind and flood combined, has handled over 500 tree claims, and he's passionate about educating policyholders so they can reduce stress during times of need and feel confident in their insurance policy and that it's working. So the number one question I get asked is, will my insurance pay for removing the tree and the damage it caused to my property?
Great question. The first advice I give any policyholder is just to really understand your policy and to look through it. Most policies are written on what's called an HO3 form, and it's pretty standard throughout the entire United States. Insurance policy can have endorsements and exclusions that can modify or change the language of the HO3 policy. So you want to pay careful attention to those because that could affect your coverage. If you're not sure, I know reading insurance policies isn't the highlight of everybody's day, but certainly ask your agent or your carrier for clarification. I can't stress enough to have you understand your policy before a disaster strikes. When you're in the midst of a disaster, it can be very chaotic. You have a lot of things coming at you. So to be armed with the knowledge of how things will work so you can start doing your checklist is critical and important for you to do.
So how does that coverage work, Eddy?
That's a great question. Most people, even after reading the policy, can have a very difficult time understanding, well, is my insurance going to help me? Are they going to pay for the tree? So how it typically works is that if a tree falls on your property, it has to fall on an actual structure like your home, a fence, or a shed. If it falls in the open area and it just lands on the ground, unfortunately, most insurance policies will not cover the removal of that tree. That'll be your responsibility to do that.
If the tree falls on a building that is covered or blocks the egress, how does the insurance process work?
Yeah, so that's what triggers what we call coverage. So if the tree is blocking an egress, and what that actually means is that you can't get through your front door, or the tree is in your driveway and you can't get your car to the garage. An egress just simply means an opening or an entry to your home. So if a tree falls in the way, or is sitting on your roof, or is on top of a shed, then that coverage will be kicked in. So what happens next is really critical. First and foremost, you as a homeowner should do everything you can to protect your property. And protect yourself. In the event that the tree is on your home and you don't feel safe, get out of the house and let an expert determine what's going on with your home before you re-enter that home. Then after you protect your property and protect yourself, you're going to want to call your insurance company to report the loss. In everybody's insurance policy, there is a clause called duties after loss that you want to follow. And that just basically states that you're going to do your part to prevent any further damage to your property. In the event that you decide not to do that and further damage occurs to your property, that could be something that could be an out-of-pocket expense for you. So you always want to do your due diligence in reporting the claim and doing everything you can to prevent further damage. Have a web portal to where you can submit your claim and get the ball rolling with that. If for some reason you're not sure where that web portal is, you can always call your agent. Your agent can help submit the claim on your behalf as well. Once you submit your claim, the next step that you want to do is you want to call a professional tree company to come out and assess the damage to your home and see what it's going to take to get the tree off of your structure or out of the way of your front door. Very important to get that next step under process. Often when a tree is on top of a house, it could be potentially damaging your roof. And before you can tarp the roof, you got to get the tree off of it to prevent any further damage. So that call to a tree company is critical as your next step. And after you call the tree company, take pictures. Take lots and lots of pictures. And any insurance claim, photos can tell a story long after the damage has occurred. So it's critical to get pictures after every step of the way. And then a licensed tree care company like Fieldstone Services, they understand how your insurance works. They understand how to work with you with your insurance adjuster. And they understand exactly what they're going to need to do to pull a tree off of your home, protect your home, and get the debris out of your yard.
Fieldstone Tree Care Services is definitely licensed, insured, a professional service. You got to make sure when you're choosing a tree company, you understand how this works. So make sure your tree invoices should have a separate line item called tree debris removal, and they shouldn't exceed $500. And that's really helpful for your insurance adjuster.
Something Ciara said is very important, and that is your tree care company understands how to invoice and work with your adjuster. In the insurance world, we deal with a lot of invoices coming in from the policyholders, and it can be very difficult if your contractor or your service provider doesn't understand how insurance works. There could be a lot of back and forth to determine what was paid for. And in tree coverage and tree services, there's a very critical distinction within your policy. Almost every policy around the nation has what they call $500 tree debris removal limit, which Ciara was talking about. But that is a separate charge than removing your tree off of your home. Sometimes it can cost $5,000, $10,000, $20,000 to remove a large tree off a home. But then once they remove it off of your home and they have to cut up all the debris on the ground, your insurance policy usually only affords $500 from that point to get that debris off of your property. If you have a tree care company that understands how your insurance works, they exactly know how to make that invoice to submit to your insurance adjuster to ensure that your payment makes you whole again and that you're not out of pocket.
How will the insurance company reimburse me for the tree work?
That's often a really confusing thing for insureds to understand how they get reimbursed. What will happen is your adjuster will come out and they'll write an estimate for all of your damages, including the tree removal and the debris removal, using your professional tree care company's invoice. So long as that invoice is within market conditions, your adjuster will put that in the estimate, and then you will get a settlement check for everything, including the tree removal and debris removal. And you'll see those separate line items on your estimate that your adjuster prepared for you. And what will then happen is that you will receive a settlement less your deductible, and at which time you'll be made whole again. Often, though, tree care services and contractors will require a percentage upfront to get the work started, which is a perfectly fair practice. So long as they're working with your insurance adjuster, you should be able to get reimbursed for all those costs.
Eddy, how do we prevent trees from falling over during these storm events?
That's a great question. And almost every one of the insurance carriers out there want you to mitigate damages happening in the future. And so do you, quite frankly. Nobody wants to wake up with a large tree on their house and having to deal with all that ensues afterwards. The best thing any policyholder can do is find a licensed and professional tree care company, such as Fieldstone Tree Services, to constantly maintain your trees on your property, to have the correct trimmings, to make sure the health of all your trees on your property are correct. Doing that can go a long way in preventing any trees being knocked over by wind during a storm event.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome, Ciara.